All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Tarek, DJ TESKI. This is the first in a series of Traktor tutorials. Today we're going to go over how to import tracks, set cue points, set some metadata so that when you bring new songs into your Traktor, or this should work with pretty much any DJ software, that you're able to play these tracks without too much work in preparation. You should be able to jump around between genres, change energy levels, and prepare sets more quickly. Oftentimes, I've got so many songs by so many different people, it's hard for me to remember exactly which song has like which kind of things going on. I've got favorites, but when you've got thousands of tracks and it's all just laid out in a grid, and in a listing like this, sometimes it's hard to find that exact track that you want. So, adding metadata, adding cue points, adding ratings, and adding a color code in addition to the analyzed key information really helps things out. So, what I've got here is I've got, a deck rolling. We've got an A and a B deck. I've got two tracks loaded up. Neither one of them have cue points. Neither one of them have metadata. They've been analyzed, so they've got their track information. But I'm going to go ahead and bring up the volume here so you can kind of hear what's going on with this song. I got it running a little 4-bar loop here at the beginning. We're going to go ahead and stop and reset that. Okay, so my general strategy is to place a couple of cue points at the beginning of the song and to place cue points coming backwards from the end of the song from the last 8-bar chunk where the beat ends. So, as far as how long these phrases are, I do 32 beat phrases, which is the largest loop size, and phrase markers that Traktor at least lets you do. I don't know about Rekordbox or Mix or Serato. But in Traktor, you've got these 32 beat 8-bar chunks to work with. It makes it really simple. Dance music is often phrased in 8-bar chunks. You can see as I move the cue pointer around here. 8 bars lines up with a lot of these changes in the song. So normally what I like to do is, aside from the grid marker that is, always where the track starts, and I'll actually move the grid marker around depending on where the first breakdown happens and the first bass drop happens. If the song has an especially long intro, the largest mix in time window that I usually give myself is 4 8-bar chunks or 4 32 beat chunks. So this one happens to be laid out kind of nicely. The producer did a solid job of giving a little bit of time to mix in. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 8-bar chunks before we get to our first breakdown. We've got another 2 8-bar chunks before we get to the actual drop. So here's our breakdown. Here's our first drop, right? Here's our intro. So that gives us a little window to mix into. On this other track that's over here, we've got, the intro. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on, right? We've got our intro. We set our 32 beats here. I'm just rotating this wheel on my controller, which lets me easily set the length of the loop size. And then I hold down Shift. That lets me kind of scrub through the track in that window of increments, right? So we got 1, 2, 3 8-bar chunks before we get to our actual breakdown here. We're going to drop a cue point marker there. We got 2 more 8-bar chunks before we get to our drop. Right, so we've got our drop, we got our 2 drops, and then we go to the end of the song, right? So we're looking for where the bass line ends, or where the main musical riff ends. Right? So this seems to be the last 8-bar chunk that actually has the vocal sample going on it. It's got the arpeggiator going as well. You can hear the next 8-bar phrase is kind of minimal. So that's where we're going to actually place our marker at, is the beginning of the 8-bar phrase that has, the last bit of melodic, vocal, whatever, information. so, normally what I'll do is I'll go to the last cue point I set my, my 8-bar window. I'll scrub to the end. Okay, so there. Okay, that's the one without the lead. Okay, so we drop a cue point, we go back 8, drop a cue point, go back 8, drop a cue point, go back 8, drop a cue point, go back 8, drop a cue point. Okay, so now we got like 5 cue points coming back from the end of the song. Why do we do this? Let's go ahead and do it on this other track as well. All right, not to say that these tracks necessarily match real well, but okay, that's kind of like the chill part, like the outro. Okay, this one has the synth line in it, so that's where we're gonna drop our last cue point. And then we're gonna go, every 8 bars back from that. All right, so what are we doing here? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 before our breakdown happens in this song, 6 total before the drop. Let's say that we want the drop on this track to start exactly when this phrase ends and we get to this part of the song, right? This one actually has a bass line that goes pretty much all the way through the end of the track, but we can EQ that out if we felt like while we're in the process of mixing. So I'm going to go back to cue point number 4 here. So when this reaches cue point number 8, we want this one over here to basically be at cue point somewhere in between cue point 2 and cue point 3, because there's 2 bars in between here. So cue point 2 over here should be about where cue point 6 lands here. Okay, so let's try that. So see what that sounds like. Alright, when we get to cue point number 7 on track B, there'll be the break and the bass line come back in, right? But on track A, on deck A here, we're still waiting for this kind of build up to end. So what I could be doing is actually start a little bit too early, right? We're gonna finish off this last 8-bar chunk, right? Track A is now currently building up, so we could be kind of dropping out the bass or whatever. Right, and that's a strategy for laying down cue points so that you can start one bass line when the other bass line stops. You can not have vocals overlapping. You don't have lead synthesizers or whatever overlapping. So again, we basically have 5 cue points coming back from the end of, each track here. And that's really so that we can line up, our intro and our first drop. You get to choose where the song comes in, right? So let's say that I actually wanted to roll this one on deck B here, all the way until the end. And then I wanted the bass to drop on deck A here. So on deck A here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6 that leads to the bass drop. Okay, so on deck B here, there are, let's just count it out, 1, 2, 3 8-bar chunks after the cue point number 8 starts. So if cue point 8 starts, we go over here. Let's throw this deck up. We can listen to this. Right, so basically we got two 8-bar chunks coming up here. So I'll just drop it right at this point. This means that as the track in deck B ends, that's when we'll actually get to the end of the breakdown that we're rolling through right now on deck A. So it's a 16-bar mix. It's not super long. You can loop things out, with your looping controls in your deck or whatever. But, this is almost super easy, really easy to line things up if you do it this way. For me, this is a strategy that I've employed for a couple of years now. God, it's probably going on 10 years actually, come to think about it. but it means that I can go through my tracks relatively easy. It takes me a couple of minutes to actually lay down these cue points, and then I can pretty much depend on this system as I'm like loading up tracks. I can count in and out. I don't have to like remember exactly where the mix windows are. I've got visual indicators for it. Maybe this was a little bit confusing the way I explained it. But it's basically so that you can count in and count out, and if the cue points are always in kind of a predefined system in your songs, then you'll know what they mean. This is what works for me, may not work for you. You might want to put your cue point, your last cue point, on the part of the track where the bass line is actually gone, and set your cue points back from that. Because some of my tracks have longer lead-ins than others, I actually prefer to kind of like set the cue point at the beginning of the 8-bar chunk that has the last little bit of bass information or lead information or vocal information in it. And that's just the way that I prefer to do things. Okay, so the next part is I like to color code the tracks based on their kind of energy level. So this track over here, it's got a lot of high frequency information. It's like, a pretty driving dance floor, main room kind of track, so I'll give it, basically red would be like a screaming, like all out, balls to the walls, super busy. It's got like all of the like stutter samples and everything going on it. And like all the way down here at the bottom of the list, like magenta, that's going to be your like spaced out, low, minimal, roller, whatever, deep, dark, low kind of track. So, I use this kind of like range in here. As far as like where this track sits, it's like somewhere around the middle, maybe a little bit busier than that. It's got like, some sirens and shit like that, and it's got some scratching and whatever. So maybe I'll put that up here at orange. Then like the quality of the track, like how good is it? Like it's like pretty decent, start out around 3. It doesn't have any like mastering issues. The track is like assembled pretty well. Like I'd play it in most sets, so we'll start out at 3. So then we go to the comments section. Like, what is this thing? It's busy. It's got like buzzy bass. It's got vocal samples. It's got some like OG rave stabs. I like to drop stuff about describing the bass line, so it's got like cyber bass. That's how I define that kind of like buzzy, like neuro sound. Right? So then you get like, all of these, comments going on, and you end up with, a listing like this, where you've got attributes that you assign to your tracks, and you can do a search for like, oh, let me play all of my like deep tracks. So then I've got, hey, here's all my deep tracks, or I want all my minimal stuff. Right. Minimal, right? I am like real bad at typing today. Okay, so here's all the minimal stuff. Yeah, so that's basically like how I set up cue points, how I set up metadata information. And how I use my rating system. And then, sort it by key. I want to avoid maybe stuff with like diva vocals in the set, or I want to like specifically go for like things with acid lines. And then when you're actually constructing a set, you can use the color coding to like go up and down in the intensity level for, you can build up from low minimal all the way up through like a busy frantic, and then you can work your way back down. Really helps with phrasing, with a strategy for the energy level of the set. Yeah, so that's what I do. And again, this is DJ TESKI, just showing how to do some Traktor stuff. Thanks for watching.